I'm Wendy Capewell, an experienced counsellor and psychotherapist. I work with so many people who feel that they're the only ones struggling with the issues that they share with me. Possibly, like many of you, they feel so alone. And so the aim of this podcast is to talk to guests who have their own stories to share, their experience of the struggles that they've been through, or maybe they're continuing to live with, offering their insights as well as their inspiring journey. So let me introduce my guest.
So today I've got yet again Adrian Huxley from West Somerset Counselling. We've chatted before, several times before, and he's been a guest on my podcast before. And we decided to do another one together because Adrian was, well, now I'm going to pass you over Adrian. You tell the audience what you've been noticing more of.
I've noticed a lot more as time has gone on that people are making decisions that maybe not the correct ones, or maybe bad decisions, and they immediately blame themselves when it goes wrong. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of the decisions we make are based on the events of our childhood, things that happened when we were children, or the way that we were brought up. We may not have been loved as a child. We may have been neglected as a child and had to survive. And that can affect the decisions we make today. And a lot of people now blame themselves if they get something wrong, but actually it may not be their fault. It may be something from their upbringing that swerved that decision.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I do a lot of that kind of work because those patterns have formed very early on. They might have found ways of surviving, so they found coping strategies, or those patterns were formed like being told, well, you're stupid, you're a waste of space, or you're not good enough, or sometimes it's not even that obvious. It might be it's unspoken, but you get the sense of not being appreciated or loved or protected.
Yeah. And also people that come from some societies where they're male dominated, and they can lose out on life simply by being female, because they're taught the female is the person that stays home and the man is the lord of the manor, and they go into life thinking it's going to be like that all the time, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that's right. Stereotypes. Really, definitely. It's a hangover from, well, centuries, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you finding that quite a lot with that?
I believe that, and probably around 2/3 of my clients are affected by something that's happened in childhood. It may be the way they were brought up through childhood. It may have been traumatic events in childhood. In extreme cases, it can be abuse and so on. So they struggle with relationships in later life. They don't know how to love someone. They don't understand what it is when someone loves them. They're very wary of it, and they can be helped to come round from this, but they have to realise first that that's what's happening.
Yeah, because it's in the unconscious, and like so many other things that are in our unconscious, we do things without noticing them.
Yeah.
Like you just got a cuppa there, and you just picked that up and drank it without thinking about it, because the brain has created those patterns that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah. And everything becomes a habit.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore that's what happens with us, with those habits that we pick up, or those beliefs that we have. Yeah. So can you give any examples? Well, obviously we can't talk about clients, but I just think there are different things that might help.
One example that I see a lot is that children that have been brought up, and this was the case with me actually. I was provided for as a child.
Yeah.
I didn't need anything. I was fed, I was kept warm, and so on. But I wasn't given any love. And so you tend, as a child like that, to be quite defensive and quite wary of people who show any kind of affection towards you, because you assume that there's probably a hidden motive behind it. And as time goes on, you build emotional walls around yourself to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You carry those walls into adulthood. And so when there's an opportunity for a relationship in later life, you may often completely shy away from it because you're scared of it, or you're afraid of what may happen. Or if you do go into a relationship, you find it very difficult, and so will the other person, because regaining the trust of someone takes a long time. Whereas people who have grown up in a loving environment, this will come second nature to them. That's the difference.
Yeah. So my example, I see as well, but my example was of what happened to me was I got fed and clothed, etc. But I didn't get the love either. But because I saw my parents behaving more favorably when they were with their friends or their friends' children, I started thinking it was me. There was something wrong with me. I was unlovable.
Yeah. And that self-blaming, it's quite destructive. And as time goes on into adulthood, the effect of it becomes stronger. And even when someone such as a therapist is trying to teach you that actually it's not your fault, you didn't do anything wrong, you still insist on believing that that's a problem. You were the problem.
Yeah.
And it can take many sessions to actually convince someone that actually they've done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them.
But I guess as a child, when we feel that our parents should protect us and they should love us and they don't, or we perceive that way, then that takes a lot of convincing, doesn't it? Because for me, I was carrying that through the whole of my childhood. Well, it must be me because, well, then they're okay with other people, but they're not with me. So therefore, that's me. Therefore, I am unlovable. So therefore, I wasn't likable at school. Obviously, friends didn't like me. Teachers didn't like me. All of that other stuff, I became a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And I was trying harder and harder and harder. But obviously that pushed people away as well. But at the same time, I still didn't trust people. So there was that pull me, push you kind of thing going on.
Yeah, the walls you created when you were young, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Those walls take an awful lot to knock them down. You would have to know someone for a very long time before you felt you were able to trust them.
Yeah.
And that can be damaging to a relationship.
Exactly. I think something else I've noticed as well is that I guess maybe it's more noticeable with women I work with, but because they didn't understand what love was as a child, they didn't appreciate it wasn't given to them in a healthy way, then they could have become quite promiscuous because they felt, well, that's the only way I'm going to get love. That must be what you have to do as a woman to be loved.
They can form the belief that sex is love.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually it isn't.
No, it's not. But I think when you grab at anything, and if a guy, if that's what he is expecting or demanding, or you're put in that position, I guess for them that's what they would think. Oh well, that must be how I remember one client saying to me, well, that's how you got a man, and that's how you kept a man.
Yeah. That's how you get the wrong man.
Yeah. And then it leads to that path of feeling unloved again and unlovable.
Yeah. And you can have several goes at it before you actually get it right as well.
Yeah, and I think sadly some people don't ever get it right because they just keep repeating the same patterns. unless they have that awareness, either somehow or another, sometimes with working like with someone like you or me.
And another thing that can happen as the years go on and people get older, they also think, well, it's too late now.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
Yeah.
I'm never going to meet anyone now.
Yeah.
And that's untrue as well. We're never too old.
Mm. Yeah. Or all the good ones are taken.
Yeah.
That's another one that I hear a lot. Well, no, there aren't any good ones out there. They're all taken.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's just trying to make people aware that not everything that goes wrong with their life is their fault.
Mm.
And even if they do struggle to love someone, that's probably not their fault either. That's a hangover from when they were children and they were unloved. They think being unloved is a normal thing.
Mm.
When it actually isn't. It's quite unhealthy, actually.
Yeah. Do you ever get that? I mean, something when you ask what their childhood was like, and the first thing they say is, "Oh, I had a happy childhood," and then you start questioning a little bit more, and you find actually it wasn't as happy as they believed it was, because that was their normal.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that we tend to do is to remember all the happy stuff,
Yeah.
and we mentally block out all the bad times.
Mm.
But if you dig around a little, you can find all the things that they completely disregard,
Mm.
and they're the things that can come back every so often and influence the way we think now.
Yeah.
These memories are never forgotten. They're just there, and sometimes something will trigger it. And well, that's what PTSD is in the extreme, isn't it?
Mm.
Something will trigger a memory, and it hits you in the face, and away you go again.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, the brain holds all those memories, and it won't remember the events, but it'll remember the pain, the emotional hurt, the distress, it'll remember that, and then it will come back and in full force. And you think, where did that come from? It's just, well, that's it. It's back again.
Yeah, yeah. I had one client who was telling me they went to a very special music school. This wasn't in the UK, but every so often the school would put events on, and parents would be invited to come along and watch. And this person's parents never went, and that simple fact alone made really desperately unhappy.
Yeah.
The fact that all the other parents were there and just hadn't bothered.
Yeah.
And it sounds quite a small thing, but it isn't to a child.
No,
it's really
not.
important.
Yeah.
We turn up for these little school plays and events and everything. It doesn't take long, but just go along.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think that's very true, that they're really important events or memories for a child, and they really do count for a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing that happens to children is they see how other children are treated by their parents. They wonder, why am I not getting that same kind of love and care?
Yeah.
And you're back to your situation where you assume that it's your fault.
Yeah. And especially if you get, I remember those being, my parents would be always talking about the other children, how well they'd done, or kind of complimenting them, or as if I should have been more like them.
Yeah.
And so I felt even more inferior.
And you don't really feel inferior, you feel helpless because you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
It's not your problem to fix, but you feel that it is my fault and I need to fix it, but I don't know what to do.
No.
No one's telling me what to do.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I also think I hear clients say reluctant. They feel that if they tell their stories, if they tell their experiences, then it's disloyal to their parents.
Yeah.
And therefore they're fearful of talking about it. And I said, well, it's not your parents' fault because they were doing their best.
Yeah, and these things tend to be generational as well. They're passed down.
Yeah.
That person's parents probably felt exactly the same when they were a child.
Yeah.
And they think it's normal, so that's why they treat their child like that.
Well, we
And
don't get a rule book, do we? How
no,
should we a parent?
it's not easy, is it?
No.
And it takes a very strong person to first to realise that this is why they behave as they do, and secondly, to break the link, the generational link.
Mm.
And if they have children themselves, then they bring them up how they would have wanted to be brought up.
Mm.
And a lot of people don't get the opportunity to make that realisation.
No, they don't. You're right. And so they go through, they either completely shut off and suppress their emotions and thoughts, or they keep themselves busy so they don't have to go there, or they're just unhappy but they can't express it and they don't know why. So I think there are lots of coping mechanisms. I know quite a few clients that they're always busy, they're always doing, they're either working harder, they've got lots of hobbies, they're always out, they're always on the go and never stop. And I ask them what happens if you stop.
Yeah.
And some don't recognize it's because they don't want to be in touch with their feelings. For others, it's just habit.
Yeah. I know some people who are physically unable to cry.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were taught as they were growing up as a child, they were taught that it was a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And that they shouldn't do it. And it gets to the point where even though they want to cry, they're physically unable to do it. And I think crying is something that we all do at one point or another, isn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's actually, it's very healthy because it releases, I think it's oxytocin and serotonin.
Yeah, yeah.
It's part of how our body regulates our nervous system when it's become dysregulated. So when we've got really anxious, those tears are actually healing and calming us.
It's effectively, it's like a safety valve on a steam engine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It releases the pressure. And after we've had a good cry, we always feel better.
Yeah, unless you have one of those really, really cry forever that is more distressing, more because, and then you end up with a headache and feeling really horrible, but they're not healing crying. I've had those where I've just been really, really distressed and it hasn't been a release. It's been really pent up emotions that where I couldn't solve the problem. It wasn't releasing. It was just frustration, I guess.
Yeah. So sometimes we may cry after the event.
Yeah.
As a sign of relief. It doesn't have to be a sign of anger or frustration. It can be a sign of relief.
Yeah.
It can happen in lots of occasions. And it's okay to cry.
Yeah, for every gender.
Yeah.
Whoever, man, woman, or if you're, non-specific, whatever, I think it's, everyone, child, adult, everybody. Yeah.
We've often seen men who've had an emotional event happen, and you can see that they're desperate to cry, but they force themselves not to. And you can see the pressure inside. And if they just take 30 seconds and let it go, it would all be fine.
But then boys don't cry. That's what they're told.
Yeah. And I think that's still the case today, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Stop being a girl. Stop being a wuss.
Yeah.
All of those messages, especially to men, or even women are told to just pull themselves together. But yeah.
It's not a sign of weakness, is it?
No.
It's a sign, if anything, it's a sign of the strength, having the strength to let yourself do it.
Yeah.
You don't really care what other people think. You need to cry, so you do it.
Mm. Yeah. But I have women as well who just can't cry. I had one client recently, we'd have like online sessions. And then one day we couldn't have that online session. We had to have a telephone session, and I could hear her crying.
Yeah.
And I said, talked about it, and obviously very gently. And she said, yeah, I didn't want to cry in front of you, but I can do it when you can't see me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I find when I'm sitting with a client and they cry, it's not a sign of unhappiness usually. It mostly happens as a sign of relief.
Yeah.
When they have a realization that maybe this wasn't my fault or I didn't do something wrong. And again, it's the safety valve going off and they think, whoa, that's okay. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other emotion that I feel that people are fearful of or feel is unacceptable is anger.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, anger is it's another kind of safety valve thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's okay to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be careful where you direct it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't direct it against other people or yourself, really. Don't beat yourself up. Just feel angry. And that's okay because it will go away. And then you can have a cry.
Yeah, sometimes that's what it is. But I think
Yeah.
people are, you shouldn't get angry. You can't stop being angry. Don't be
Yeah.
angry. But that makes it even more frustrating, doesn't it? Because then that pressure valve that you talked about just now is building up, building up, building up, and it gets even worse, so that it gets to a point where it explodes in all the wrong places.
Yeah, we can get this burst of adrenaline and it's got nowhere to go. So it has to go somewhere. And yeah, different people handle it in different ways. But anger isn't a bad thing.
No.
It's just a side effect of something else.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can learn to address the something else, then the anger will go away on its own.
Mm. Do you ever? I don't know about you, but I find that sometimes beneath that anger is another emotion, like fear.
Yeah, yeah. Is it very often fear driven?
Mm.
Fear of the unknown very often.
Yeah.
Not knowing what if this happens or that, or if I do this, will it all go wrong and that'll be my fault and
Mm. And sometimes it's a protection, isn't it?
yeah,
If I'm
yeah,
angry, you're not going to go there. You're not going to come near me. You're
yeah.
not going to address. You're not going to. Yeah, I can keep others at bay. So therefore, I'm angry. You're not going to question me. You're not going to provoke me. It's all of that. Keep away. Keep away.
It's
Yeah.
another way of building a wall, isn't it?
Yeah.
By being someone who seems to be unlikable, people will stay away and leave you alone.
Yeah.
Which it's again, it's misguided, but if people don't know, you know, it's about education, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Anything else cropping up for you?
No, I wanted to talk to you about this because it's clearly a big thing.
Yeah.
As I said, probably 2/3 of the people that I see have problems that may be rooted in childhood or been made worse by experiences in childhood. And I want people to know that the things that happened to them in childhood, most of the time, weren't their fault. And things can change. Once you become aware of it, you can change it.
Yeah.
And it's never too late, no matter who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I have to take myself aside and give myself a good talking to. If I find, if it's been a particularly bad occasion, I'll just talk to myself gently. I say, look, it wasn't your fault. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that.
No, I agree. And I would say I would say the same for me. You know, I don't always get it right. There are times when I beat myself up and I have to say, come on, if exactly, not exactly the same words, but in my own way, yeah, I will just be, I would say, be kind and compassionate to yourself.
Yeah,
I think those are words I often say to clients. Just be kind and compassionate to yourself. You're doing your best. It's not your fault.
yeah. Do the best what you can with what you've got.
Yeah, yeah.
What I do with some people is suggest they go and stand in front of the mirror and talk to themselves out loud. Tell them
Oh,
that they're doing okay with what they've got. It's not their fault. And talking to yourself in front of a mirror out loud is really difficult because you judge yourself.
yeah.
But the effect of it is very powerful and it can last
Mm.
for a long time. So give it a go.
Yeah, it's very good advice there. Yeah.
Self affirmation.
Yes. Yes.
We're all on a journey through life and things go wrong or we make mistakes and
Mm.
we don't always get it right, but that's okay. Next time
Mm.
we'll learn and next time we'll get it right. So don't beat yourself up too much.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I would say baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
It's the same all through life, isn't it, Wendy? I mean, you and I have been around a while.
Yeah, yeah. Very true.
We still make mistakes.
Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah. And what's the point of beating yourself up? You can learn from mistakes, but if you beat yourself up, you just feel more miserable and you're not gonna it's not gonna be any use at all. And
What the way I try to get people to think is that we don't make mistakes, but we have lessons,
yeah.
something we can learn from. And if you can avoid using the word mistake, you say,
Mm,
I've had a lesson there. I've learned that.
yeah.
Next time I'll get it right.
Yeah. Or better. I'll
Yeah,
be better at it. Yeah. I and one I use is do you remember what it was like when you were told off as a child or someone told you you were stupid or you weren't good enough or you were silly or thick or whatever it was? How did that feel? And you know that feeling is really awful and they can quite often
it would. Yeah, and
recollect that. So I
yeah.
just
As
say,
well as
well,
that, go on.
so I said, well, why would you do it to yourself? Because that's what you're recreating. If you tell yourself you're stupid, if you tell yourself you're not good enough, if you tell yourself you're thick, then how do you think that feels when you keep repeating that to yourself? You're going to feel just as miserable as you did when somebody else said it.
Yeah, because if you say it often enough, you believe it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And another thing I remember from childhood too is that mistakes very often involve a slap as well. So
Oh
there was physical pain as well.
yeah.
That's something that most of the time doesn't happen now. It does happen
Mm,
occasionally, but
mm,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, it's been really good talking to you again today, Adrian. I think, you know, hopefully there's some things in there that people will find useful that we've talked about today. And I really appreciate you spending the time so that we could chat some of those things through. Thank you so
yeah, I've enjoyed
much.
it. I've enjoyed it, Randy.
Yeah, good. So how do people get in touch with you? What's the easiest way? Is it
The website, westsomersetcounselling.co.uk. If you
great?
Google that, it'll all be there.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks again. Thank you so much today, Adrian.
Thank you.
I hope you found this episode interesting as well as helpful. Do get in touch if you would like to learn more about working with me. My email address is info@wendycapewell.co.uk. Take good care of yourself. Until next time.